guys. We have a guest on.
Chris, we have important hockey matters here,
Start the
Reavers.
show.
Let's go here.
Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 1261.
I didn't easy being Reeves.
March 7th, 2024. 73 degrees on this day on two occasions, 1987 and the year 2000. That's 2 years in a row for 2000. We had a pleasant spring. And 16 below on this day in 1960.
Hail the flashlight king.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Heidt in the newsroom, and of course, the rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Souchere.
We're joined by Jim Schultz. Jim is currently the president of the Minnesota Private Business Council, but, well, much to my regret and many others, he is not the Attorney General. How are you, Jim?
I am doing well, guys. It's great to be on with you again, Mayor. How are you?
Good. You've written a piece warning about the pitfalls of Minnesota becoming a sanctuary state. Is there, in fact, a bill proposing that in the legislature?
Yes, in fact, co-sponsored in both the Senate and the House to make Minnesota a sanctuary state. Believe it or not. In fact, there was another op-ed in response to mine writing about this just yesterday in the Star Tribune. Arguing that Minnesota should be a sanctuary state, despite the catastrophe that it's been in every state that's embraced it around the country.
Why should we not? I don't want to, but explain to us why this is a bad idea.
Yeah, so a few things. So, a number of state jurisdictions have done this, and basically what it does is it says that no state officials can cooperate with federal immigration authorities in terms of enforcing our immigration laws. That's a terrible thing for many reasons. One, it incentivizes the illegal immigration that has left us with 9 million illegal immigrants in our country since Joe Biden's been in office, that has massively burdened our public services, that have in some cases led to dramatically increases in violent crime, and all the things that we've seen. And I believe it's $4 billion that the city of New York is going to have to spend dealing with their migrant crisis. So what it does is, when you embrace these policies, it says to migrants who are considering coming to the United States, or illegal immigrants who are here, it says you come to our jurisdiction because we won't partner with federal immigration authorities to be deported. And so it creates massive burdens on public systems, and it's just wrong. I mean, we should cooperate with federal authorities in enforcing the basic laws of our country. And it is bizarre that we have people in our legislature and elsewhere who want to embrace this policy. Last session, they delivered free health care and free college education to illegal immigrants as well. Another bizarre policy. But it's these types of policies that have created the crisis we now face, with just millions of illegal immigrants in our country.
The governor of Arizona just vetoed a bill that would have allowed Arizona police officers to arrest illegal immigrants. She vetoed the bill.
Is that right? Is that right? Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and nobody hates illegal immigrants. They should be treated with respect and so forth. These are human beings. But we're a country, and we have to, we got to protect our citizens. We've got to protect scarce resources. The idea, that, for example, that, we've got people struggling to make ends meet to send their kids to college, and instead of helping them do that, we're giving scarce resources to send illegal immigrants to college. I mean, it's kooky, and this is the sort of stuff that's coming through our legislature right now.
Do you know who has authored the bill?
I believe it's Omar Fateh in the Senate, and a woman who in the House. I can't remember her name right now, but
look that up,
many DFL folks have gotten behind it, and it's unclear the trajectory that it will go. But I think 19 people in the House have backed it, and that's a substantial portion of the House caucus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, it's in keeping with a lot of what we've seen from this kind of
Sandra Feist is the other author.
Sandra Feist.
Yeah, Sandra. Yes, yeah, and they've got a lot of people alongside them. It's in keeping with what we've seen from this legislature. I mean, it's this far left trifecta, and right now, I mean, this isn't the DFL of 1995. This is a ideologically far left set of folks, and whether it be stuff like this or
Jim, what do they want? What does this trifecta ultimately want? Do they have an end game?
That's a good question. Do they have an end game? I don't think so. I mean, I think that's a little bit, progressivism. Generally, it's it's always odds of the next thing. To deal with some inequity or real or perceived, and so I don't know that they have an end game other than I think they broadly. I mean, it's just this kind of end goal of kind of equity, and that's just kind of a common thing that they push. So it's not about creating jobs and economic growth where because in that system you people have disparate results. Some people are less successful than others and stuff. It's all about these days for them distributing a fixed pie of resources to the people that they perceive to be
oppressed,
underprivileged, and so forth. Exactly. Yeah. And so you can see all these things like, giving money away to, $1 billion to nonprofits, totally unaccountably to, deal with various ills, instead of just the obvious things. Like you give tens of millions of dollars to deal with crime to nonprofits in our state, instead of just like funding our police forces adequately and supporting them and making sure we've got the cops we need.
And we can't count on the governor to veto this. He'll go along with it. That would be my prediction. This would just introduce more chaos to the Twin Cities.
100%. I mean, that's one thing. Tim Walz, he's a guy who's was kind of he wasn't super far left when he was in Congress, but boy, he's gone along with everything that the legislature has put in front of him, essentially. And so I haven't seen if he's announced his position on this, but I would be surprised if he didn't go along with it.
Is there anything citizens can do, which almost seems like a stupid question? No matter what the citizens want, they don't get it. But is there anything the citizens can do about this?
I would say, that bread and butter democracy, calling your legislator to tell them this is outrageous. And,
well, we can't afford it. Let's start with that. We can't afford it.
Yeah. Yep. Can't afford it. It's unsafe. We just saw in Georgia a couple of weeks ago, a young woman killed by an illegal immigrant. It's and you're right, we can't afford it. I mean, it's crazy that it's even being contemplated. And this is an issue that cuts across party lines now. I mean, it used to kind of be, being firmer on illegal immigration used to be, kind of more of a Republican thing. But now moderates and even a lot of Democrats are saying, this is not sustainable to basically deliver the message to the world that if you make it to the United States, whether legally or illegally, that you get to stay, and you'll even have the benefit of the prospect of substantial, public welfare and so forth. And so it's kind of starting to cut across party lines because it's just one of those common sense.
So you had asked about the end game earlier, Joe, and Feist, who is an immigration attorney, had the following to say, quote, "We don't want to waste our precious resources on enforcing a broken federal immigration system," Feist said. "It's a really big priority for me this session because Donald Trump has said that he wants to marshal state and local resources to enact his immigration vision. And he said that that vision includes rounding up immigrants and putting them in massive camps, including immigrants in the United States. And this may be our last opportunity to pass a law like this that would ensure that the state of Minnesota is not complicit in that vision." Mm-hmm. There's your answer.
Mm-hmm. Jim, are you going to keep hectoring on this? Are you going to keep up the good fight?
Yeah, I mean, this issue is a really important one, and it's really important that this legislation is killed. And then just more broadly, I'm going to stay in the fight. My organization, we advocate for sensible policies around the economy, sensible policies around crime, and otherwise. And so we're out there, fighting every day on a lot of different issues. And I want to, this state, we're sprinting to become, totally dysfunctional states like Illinois or California.
Yep.
And after my, as you alluded to earlier, after what was a really painful loss for me in that Attorney General's race, I thought a lot about kind of what I wanted to do, and I had a lot of opportunities to go into the private sector and things, and I decided to build this along with some others because there's this state right now is on a path towards just being like in Illinois, that totally dysfunctional state where businesses are fleeing, people are fleeing, where people don't have the opportunities that they should have, and there's 5.5 million people in the state who deserve better than what we currently have, and we have to have people that make some personal sacrifices, make some put themselves out there a little bit to fight to put the brakes on what is becoming increasingly unhinged leadership in our state.
Might you run again for office?
It's possible. For the big gating thing, and I want to say in the fight in one way or another, big gating thing for running again would be on the family side. I've got as you know, Joe, I've got the young daughters. They're now 8, 5, and almost 3. Running a statewide race in particular, it just is incredibly burdensome on the family. It just takes a lot out of you. And as my daughters get older, and the prospect, in some ways, last race was easier because all the nastiness was over their head and stuff. And as my girls get into middle school and stuff like that, it's just kind of a different proposition. And then just my wife Molly and I, ultimately having to think through it and get and be on the same page about it. I want to say in the fight one way or another, and just an open question of whether or not that'll be elected office or seeking elected office or not. But the state just desperately needs different leadership because we're living in just a very strange time where the assortment of crazy, reckless, irresponsible policies that we're getting from our legislature is really remarkable, really disturbing, and we have to, we need the leadership, good cannon to step forward and fight back, and so.
And that's evidenced in the response that they wrote in this week's op-ed, Omar and Sandra. Reading it, it looks like medicated babbling. It's just nonsense. And the only thing that made really any sense is the part that Chris read. Only, Chris, you got it wrong. We're supposed to refer to them as new Americans.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But Jim, I was going to ask you, at one point she's rambling on about the current law and how local law enforcement is burdened with going after these folks. Is that in fact true? I had not heard that local law enforcement was in fact burdened by chasing down illegal immigration.
Well, yeah, it's not true, and how that's not true is that there's no folks in law enforcement, and there's no law enforcement agencies in the state that are backing this.
Right.
If it was such a burden, right, they'd be all over this, and no, they're not, and they're not for a variety of reasons. One of which is one very really kind of strange element of this bill is that say you've got a violent criminal that's committed a state crime. You can't even, you can still prosecute, them as a legal immigrant, but you can't even let the federal officials know that this is an illegal immigrant, this person who's committed a violent crime, so that they could be deported and gotten out of the country. It's just totally bizarre. Well, that's obviously something an option that local authorities would want to have, and so no, it is not true. This is just kind of it's just a spin from them. It is not true that local officials want this. There's probably a sheriff or a police chief somewhere that you would find to do it, but not broadly. And so it's just it's emphatically not accurate.
Jim, it's funny that you brought up violent crime because whoever wrote this concocted this absurd scenario where imagine you are the victim of a violent crime and the only witness was an immigrant, and they would be afraid to come forward as a witness in your behalf if in fact ... blah blah blah, nonsense. The whole thing is absurd, and they barely mention money, and they're more worried about Trump than anything else.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like, and I don't have to imagine, the public safety, a counter argument there. We literally had just a couple weeks ago, a young woman killed in Georgia. We had in Virginia, I believe, a man sexually assaulted someone. We had, this isn't some hypothetical scenario.
Cops in New York City.
Real things.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. That's right.
Well, we had the story in Iowa last summer of a 22-year-old out for a jog, and she was raped and killed.
Mm-hmm.
New Americans, Chris.
Sorry, New Americans.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. It's variety. It's funny how we can't say illegal immigrants anymore. I mean, people like make it sound like it's so bad. It's like we can respect these people. These are human beings and so forth. While just simply saying that, look, we have a country. We've got duties to our citizens first as a country, and have resources that are scarce and so forth. And this is what's really troubling to me too is what they did last session. As we talked about with the free healthcare and free college for people. I mean, it's totally unfair, totally unjust to say that. The guy who's, scrape guy or gal who's trying to put together, resources for college for their kids that, instead of helping him pay for it, that we're helping, illegal immigrants go to college for free. It's a variety of different policies here that does suggest that people in our legislature are more concerned about the care of our illegal immigrants than our own citizens.
Jim, let's stay in touch.
Yeah, well, thank you, Joe. It's great to be on. As you know, I'm a longtime listener from my dad's garage growing up, and so would love to stay in touch, and we'll certainly continue listening to you guys.
Thank you, sir. All right, Jim Schultz.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, who
this
was defeated by Keith Ellison. Unfortunately, he's now in the private sector for Private Business Minnesota.
It would be one thing if these legislators didn't have evidence that this is a catastrophe waiting to happen. You've seen how many other states that are currently in crisis. New York had to call in the National Guard to protect the freaking subway.
Did you ever think you'd live in the United States where the New York National Guard had to patrol the New York subway system?
No.
No, that can't be. That's not all the illegal immigrants they're patrolling for.
Oh, you don't think that had a helping hand?
It had a helping hand, but the crime in New York is rampant. Did you ever think you'd live in a country where to go buy toothpaste, it would be locked up behind plexiglass? That's not illegal immigrant. The whole fabric of our moral and ethical integrity has been severely strained. Now you get back to Omar Fateh and this Sandy Feist and the rest of the Mysterians. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that when they use the term New Americans, that's exactly what they mean. Mm-hmm. They would just as soon have that group not born here, not embracing the conventions and traditions and rituals of America, not embracing the Constitution of America. They would just as soon have a new America.
Yeah,
and that's the mystery in a nutshell. We've said all along that the mystery is the attempt to bring about a country that you wouldn't recognize, and I believe that what you wouldn't recognize is the country they imagine. You and your wife and your kids going to school, and as a homeowner, or you, Rook, or any of us, this is not the Americans they want. We are not the Americans they want.
Oh, the ones that pay the taxes,
right? They don't want that.
Oh.
And again, I don't think this is hyperbole. When they don't have any money, I don't know what their position will be then, because they won't have any money, because the new Americans are not going to produce much tax revenue. And so I don't know where they are when they don't have any money. But they'll get to that point. If their wishes are fulfilled, they'll get to the point where they don't have any money, but they'll look out over a sea of new Americans, and they can do that from their new office building, because it's going to have a grand balcony where they can stand and look out over the poor and bedraggled who are not new Americans. They're the Americans that were left over and trampled by the new Americans.
Yeah. The blatant and swaggering ignorance, though. And Chris brought up evidence in other areas that it's not working. That doesn't matter. I mean, they don't look to China or Russia or any of these communist countries to see that socialism isn't working. It'll work just fine here. So they're just so stupid.
Well, Omar went down to Cuba. She thought it was great.
I'm on redfin.com. Do you guys think Hubbard would build me a studio if I moved to South Dakota? Would that be allowed?
Well, let me